All of you trying to hoard supplies and hide away in luxury villas are wrong. Only I, reborn, know the ultimate safe house. I bolt upright in the driver's seat, but the seatbelt jerks me back hard. I'm gasping for breath. One hand laying on the horn, the other instinctively grabbing my neck. The burning pain of the seatbelt still stings my nerves. But I know it wasn't just a seatbelt. A zombie's bite hurts way worse. The zombie simulation feels too real. How can it feel this real? I let go of the horn, stopping the blare. Even dreams aren't this vivid, right? I glance at the dashboard clock. June 20th, 13:58. I remember it crystal clear. The zombie outbreak hits on June 27th, and I got bitten on September 25th. From June 20th to the day I died, every single event of those 3 months is burned into my mind. What kind of dream has a full plot lasting 3 whole months? Most importantly, every single detail is razor sharp. I look up. Right beside me is the factory renovation project I've been managing. It's scorching hot out. If that wasn't just a dream, then in 5 minutes, the client who never calls me first is going to ring my phone, tell me the construction funds cleared, and ask to switch to night shifts to beat the heat. So what I need to do right now is sit tight for 5 minutes and test this reality. Hands down, the longest 5 minutes of my life. Damn it, the heat is suffocating. The blasting AC feels like it's quitting on me. Beads of sweat pour down my face. My t-shirt is completely soaked through. I have zero doubt that if the seat ventilation wasn't working overtime, I'd practically have pissed myself. The second the clock hits 14:03, a wave of pure relief washes over me. Damn, I totally psyched myself out. Wipe my sweat and grab my phone to watch some clips. Suddenly the screen flashes. It's a client calling. After abruptly taking the call, I force myself to calm down and figure out my next move. Either way, staying alive is an absolute must. Since I've already survived the beta test once, even though it was short, I've gained plenty of valuable experience. Most importantly, my memories of those 3 months are crystal clear, giving me a massive edge for my survival this time around. I start the car and head home. Securing a safe base right now is priority number 1. Luckily, my wife is on shift rotation and resting at home today. When I get back, she's in the bedroom watching The Walking Dead. Talk about fitting. Turn that off. In just 6 days, you'll get to experience the real thing. After spending 40 minutes convincing her, first, that I haven't lost my mind, and second, that I'm not asking for a divorce, my wife finally concludes I'm just messing with her. Who the hell would make up a story like this as a joke? Isn't that what TV writers do all day? Am I the kind of guy to trick you with a made-up story? Aren't I the guy you tricked into marriage with a made-up story? It's 3:30 p.m. right now. At 4 o'clock, your mom is going to call you and say the kitchen faucet broke, spraying water everywhere. Bullshit. My mom's at her shop this afternoon. The power's out at the shop today, so she came home early. My wife's phone rings. It's her mother calling. I signal for my wife to answer. She hesitates and picks up. I casually tap the speakerphone button. Mom's back home. My wife's eyes go wide as saucers. You and Yongwang come over for dinner tonight. My wife hangs up in a daze, staring at me with a mix of shock and doubt. Did you know the power was going to cut out at the shop? Don't believe me? Just wait. In 30 minutes your mom is calling back. Let's see if the faucet isn't broken. I've got time to spare, so I fire up the PC and log into Jihu, searching for any threads on survival guides. We can learn from this. My wife starts pacing, waiting for the call. Just past 4. My mother-in-law calls right on time. After hanging up, my wife stares at me, realizing every single word was true. You could call it a dream. In the dream, my dad, my mom, my sister. What about your mom? My mom died at the mahjong parlor on day 1. Your sister lost her life on day 14. Your parents held out at home until day 55. What about me? You hid at home. I went out looking for food and got bitten. This time, I'll keep our family safe no matter what. Arriving at my mother-in-law's place, I fix the leaking faucet, then persuade her and my father-in-law, who just got back. Now, we need to figure out how to survive in the bedroom, the most heavily fortified spot. has got to be our bank vault. With six-sided steel plating, nothing's getting in there ever. My wife always has the craziest ideas, haha. Your vault is solid, but totally useless. There's not even water. Lock yourselves in there, and you'll just starve. This crisis won't blow over by late September. How much gear are you planning to pack? I strike back with a reality check. Water and power cut out on day 10. You won't even have enough air in that vault. Have some fruit. My mother-in-law brings out a plate of fruit. You've lived through this. Tell us what to do. Right now. I need to use every ounce of brain power to figure out how my family will survive a week from now. Apocalypse survival demands the right timing, terrain, and team. Right now, timing is clearly on my side. I've got a whole week's head start on everyone else, even though I wasted half the day. As for terrain, I spent half an hour this afternoon reading over 100 doomsday survival guides online. Almost all of them focus on hiding out and scraping by. Makes sense, I suppose. Modern city dwellers are out of shape, completely clueless about survival. Sure, some can run a half marathon or squat 60 kilos, but facing the brutal demands of the apocalypse, their weaknesses are glaring, and their strengths are tiny. They are too cowardly to brave the wild, trapped living like dogs in tiny boxes. This dog life in a box lifestyle has two main parts, the box and the dog life. Online, box dwellers split into two main camps, the high-rise tower camp and the detached villa camp. The villa camp further divides into suburban villas and countryside villas. But no matter the camp, they are still houses, which means structural problems are inevitable. First flaw of box living: cramped space. Living capacity is capped. High-rises max out at 300 square meters, villas at 500. Long-term occupancy is just 3 to 5 people. Supplies, demand, and storage space scale inversely. More people mean less relative space for gear. One article even features a wild scenario of 7 people crammed into a 140 square meter home, locked down inside for 2 straight years. Second flaw: zero self-sufficiency. Modern homes rely entirely on public utilities just to function. Cut the power and water, and your quality of life tanks instantly, turning grim fast or blowing your cover. For example, flushing a toilet in a high-rise without water instantly signals someone is upstairs, tipping off raiders that you are loaded with supplies. Third flaw: weak defense. Some stories talk about installing bulletproof glass and heavy-duty security doors. Listen up, kids. Ever seen someone rip out window and door frames?
I have.
People naively think a door closer will actually keep a fire door shut. Say it with me. Fire door. How tough do you really think that thing is? Fourth flaw: poor structural integrity. High-rises are barely okay, but villas come with yards. What are you going to do? Put a glass roof over the yard? Otherwise, what stops zombies from vaulting the fence? Will that glass roof hold the weight of zombies above? Can it withstand a determined attack?
5.
Storage isn't just about having space. You need routes and gear to move supplies. Saw a guy online buy 300 sacks of rice, 300 sacks of flour, and try to move them to the 20th floor. How wide is your door? Can a cart get through? What's the elevator's weight limit? Can it take a pallet? How much weight can the floor handle? How high can you stack it? 300 bags of rice are brutally heavy. With that energy, go fight zombies. Sixth, energy limits. To survive power and water outages, many rely on solar power and water purification. Yet some buy 10 square meters of panels, pair it with a tiny 10 kilowatt-hour battery, and expect to run water purifiers, fridges, TVs, electric blankets, fans, and a mountain of appliances. What were they thinking? Did they check the load? Seventh, poor waste management. Every plan ignores packaging waste, acting like it doesn't exist. But what about trash? How do you handle gray water and sewage? One person generates 2 kilos of waste a day. For 3 to 5 people, that buries a home in months. My wife and her parents stared at me, helpless. You thought this up in half an hour? I spent 3 agonizing months dreaming about it. We have space. I've picked the location. I smiled at my wife. But first, we need to lock down our team. My wife and I are dinks. Her parents are alive. My father is passed. My mother lives with us. We have a 3-year-old black Labrador. Her parents have a big orange cat. My wife also has a sister, working as a vet in the neighboring province. A solid survival crew with a cat and dog. Her dad started his own business back then and knows how to fix machines. I know electrical work. I have a heavy vehicle license, I can drive trucks, and I do woodworking myself. I do masonry and welding. I can handle basic shelter construction too, just the two of us working, with the others pitching in. I'm confident we can get this shelter built. First, call your sister back. If she has a boyfriend, she can bring him too. Where on earth are you planning to shelter? My name is Yang Guang. I'm the owner of a small remodeling company. I never could have imagined that one day my everyday trade would become a life-saving skill, and that I'd have to use this skill to protect my family in a zombie-infested apocalypse. June 20th, 1840. First meeting of the Apocalypse Survival Squad. Venue: my father-in-law's living room. Attendee list: father-in-law, mother-in-law, my wife, and me attending. The dog and cat. 7 blueprints spread out on the floor, held down flat at the corners with shoes, cups, and pets. My wife is holding a tablet taking meeting minutes. The TV scrolls through photos of the building's interior and exterior. The laptop shows 3D architectural models. I use a chopstick as a pointer while explaining. The target building, or fortress, is located at the southeast corner of the intersection. Construction started in 2014. It features a frame structure,
Solide reinforced concrète pour.
standing 5 stories tall. Dual fire escapes, dual circular staircases. Single floor area is 830 square meters. The top floor has a 640 square meter accessible rooftop. Originally designed as cold storage offices. During construction, learning lessons from the 2008 mega-earthquake, the structural strength was specially reinforced. The walls and floors are 20% thicker than standard cold storage, giving the building exceptional seismic resistance, impact resistance, and superior thermal and acoustic insulation. I point around the screen with a stick, explaining the plan to the whole family. Is the cold storage section finished yet? My father-in-law sharp-wittedly hones in on the key point. If it's finished, the insulation and soundproofing inside the cold storage are totally sorted. But a sealed cold storage. The ventilation and the vault are flawed too. Plus, using open flames in the cold storage is lethal. It was never fully built. The main structure and utilities were finished in 2016. But it took 2 years just to pass inspection. Because this thing is practically an illegal mobile build. I pull up the interior photos, finding the matching shots. I point at the pictures and keep explaining. Cold storage installation started in 2019. Built on a 50mm cement mortar base, with a 50mm expansion board insulation layer, a 200mm sandwich insulation core, and a 30mm fire-resistant composite barrier. Hidden in that sandwich layer are the refrigeration pipes. The structure was about 90% complete, but the ammonia cooling system hadn't been installed yet. Then the outbreak hit. The company went under, and the project ground to a halt. So this place is basically an abandoned shell. 0 water supply, 0 power. Mother-in-law grabs Daeju as he tries to bolt, pulls him straight back, and roughs him up.
Of course not.
Last year, a new energy forklift company moved in. They love the soundproofing of the cold storage section. They make components for BYD blade batteries. Their stamping gear makes a massive racket. So they retrofitted the unfinished cold storage parts and installed integrated machinery. I flip through current photos and point out the details. New energy startups always love their high-tech gadgets. The first floor is a loading dock. The second floor is office space. Floors 3 and up have no windows. Instead, they used vibrant flora and solar glass to build a glass facade. They wrapped the south, east, and west walls above the 3rd floor, along with the rooftop platform. The generated power routes through a charge controller on the 5th floor, delivering 800-volt direct current, outputting steady DC power. This building was designed to pump out 300 megawatt-hours a year. Of course, reality isn't that pretty. And with extreme weather turning wild, I reckon we will only see 20% of that output. We'll count our blessings.
I spread my hands.
How much is 20% power? 60 megawatts minus transmission loss. And operational loss leaves over 40,000 units. Yep, slash that down to 30%. And we still have 12,000 kilowatt hours. Over 30 units a day is plenty, my father-in-law calculates. Looks like our next hurdle is electricity storage. Turns out, that's actually not that hard. There is a small showroom across the building, and the day after tomorrow, 5 sets of automotive blade battery packs and 10 blade battery modules are getting delivered. That's a total storage capacity of 950 kilowatt hours. Storage is set, but what about the power output? The vehicle battery packs can output 6 kilowatts, and the battery modules 1 kilowatt. We can use them in groups, rotating between charging and discharging. Everyone nods, finally letting out a collective sigh of relief. We've got our power source and a way to store it. Next up is how we actually use the electricity. The design power for this building is 400 kilowatts, with single-floor power at 100 kilowatts, which should be more than enough. But I scratch my head. It's practically impossible for us to use the pre-installed wiring system in the stairwells, including the regular lighting and low-voltage circuits. The reasons are simple: noise and equipment aging. I swipe the photo to an overhead view of the plant. Per national regulations, the fortress's transformer is placed in an open area near the perimeter wall, and so is the substation. Plus, since this is an industrial plant, the fixtures are all high-power explosion-proof lights. They are blindingly bright, sure, but they are serious power hogs. On top of that, these lights all have built-in cooling fans. So, if we use the existing power grid, we'll have transformer noise, light fixture noise, and transformer power loss. The noise will draw in both zombies and people. If the equipment breaks down, we don't have the repair skills to fix it. My father-in-law thinks for a moment and says if our power generation and storage are solid, why don't we just build our own private circuit? Solar glass generates power, and chargers routed directly into the automotive blade battery packs, and then routed through the battery packs. Using the 6 kilowatt external discharge feature, you need to check if you can source timer circuit breakers to balance the wear and tear across all the battery packs. I quickly chime in. My father-in-law nods, and my wife signals to me that he's taking notes. Good job. We've got 5 battery packs in total. A 2+2 setup with 1 backup. As long as we keep our simultaneous power draw under 10 kilowatts, our electricity supply will be safe and stable. Power is officially sorted out. Next up is water. The water situation breaks down into 3 parts: collection, storage, and wastewater management. First, collection and storage. 10 days after the outbreak, the water and power go out. Back in my element delivering a project pitch. There are 13 days between the shutoff and the heavy rain. Following 7 days of torrential rain comes a 46-day dry spell. That means we need to store at least 60 days worth of water. Based on our household's current usage, that's 43 tons. That number is way too insane. Not to mention how huge a 40-ton tank is. The floor slabs might not even hold the weight. Exactly. So we need to pull out all the stops. Water conservation, tiered usage, and water recycling. Yeah, you two ladies figure out tonight how we can cut down on daily water use. My father-in-law lays down the law, and my wife nods obediently. It's nice having him on board. If it were just me telling her, she'd totally ignore me. There are 2 5-ton storage tanks inside the building, used for their manufacturing process, which requires tons of purified water. Their water treatment setup has plenty of capacity, but it's located on the ground floor. I plan to dismantle some parts and stash them in the cold storage area to fake a breakdown and make the purification system unusable. I take a sip of water. A few days ago, I spotted a well in the flower bed south of the building. It's a pump well with pre-installed piping, and the outlet is hidden inside the utility shaft, with an access point on the 2nd floor. Hooking up a small 50-meter submersible pump should do the trick to draw water right up. Probably some factory trying to poach groundwater to cool their equipment. I dug up the blueprint tests, marking out the pipe locations. I'm sealing off the utility shafts on the 1st and 2nd floors and extending the pipes all the way up to the 4th floor. We'll use this purified water for everything: That means we need a dedicated water filtration system. Plus, we'll need to install UV sterilization lamps in both tanks to continuously sanitize the stored water. Finally, sewage disposal. This is the real heavy hitter. A person generates 2 kilos of waste a day, a problem we cannot ignore. Solid waste and gray water have to be kept separate. For solid waste, we'll use RV portable toilets paired with breakdown chemicals, with a double-capacity blackwater tank. Dump it only when the coast is clear. Gray water pipes will use the sealed utility shaft, keeping the pipes in the other shaft bone dry. I kick the dog out of the way. The pup's little butt is squished right against the utility shaft. Gray water is split into 2 streams. Oily wastewater goes into a collection tank, filtered through an oil water separator. The rest of the water and gray water is collected together, and on rainy days, funneled right into the city's sewer main. I toss a biscuit to keep the dog happy. The key to waste disposal is staying hidden and quiet. We tie this step right in with water conservation and water recycling to slash our wastewater volume to the absolute minimum, cutting down our exposure risk. My father-in-law asks cautiously, do the 2 sewage pipes connect? They don't connect at all. Even the septic tank has 2 separate compartments. When sealing the pipe shafts, we'll use expanding foam to pack the gaps, stopping any echo or splashing noises from the drainage. Damn, our son-in-law thinks of everything.
I'm seriously impressed.
The doorbell rings. My mom is here. Watching my mom walk in carrying pastries she bought, my mother-in-law slaps her forehead. We were talking so much we forgot to eat. She rushes to the kitchen and brings the dishes out from the steam oven onto the table.
Come over and eat, guys.
We will talk while we eat. My mom was confused about what you are up to. You didn't even have time to eat. My wife tried to explain to my mom. I stopped her. It's nothing. It's summer now, right? I figured we should all take a family vacation. Have some fun for a few days, huh? Great, you and your parents pick a spot. Listen more to their opinions. The location isn't set yet. Just let me handle the arrangements. My mom asked my wife. Invite your sister back to go with us too.
Sure, Mom.
Seeing the food served, my mom greeted my mother-in-law and went off to square dance. My wife was confused. Why not tell your mom the truth?
Because she
is a veteran worker who served the people for 50 years. I sat down, picked up a steamed bun, and started eating. The phone on the sofa chimed with a text message. My wife hopped over and picked up the phone. Let's see who sent the message. I picked up the bun. Oh, don't be afraid. I saw private messages between you and some sister. I popped a piece of pork belly into my mouth and bit down. Juices burst right out from the bite. Rich sauce instantly filled my mouth. The warm broth carried a hint of charred aroma. The magic of the Maillard reaction is so addictive. After blissfully enjoying the aroma of that first bite, my exhale was full of pure relaxation. An ear-splitting scream came from my wife's side. I snapped my head around. The phone was shoved right in front of my face, filling my entire field of vision. Unknown number, I know what you're doing right now. Time seemed to stop. Only the blinking of the phone's notification light kept trying to prove that time was moving on. I am Sunshine, an accounting major graduate who has never actually worked as an accountant. What I need to calculate now is my family's survival ledger for the apocalypse. Calculate it right, and we might live. Calculate it wrong, and we are doomed. I swallowed the food in my mouth and started counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The phone screen lit up with an incoming call again. It was still that unknown number. My wife tossed the phone onto the table and spun around to hide behind me, grabbing onto my clothes with a death grip. I answered the call and put it on speaker. A clear young woman's voice rang out. Scary or not? Were you scared? Ha ha ha. Not me, but your sister was scared to death. No way. I WeChat my sister saying I changed my number. Check your phone. Maybe mobile data is off. And the Wi-Fi isn't connected either.
How could this be?
I gotta run. Go calm my sister down. I'll call her tomorrow. Beep, beep, beep. After telling my wife to change her phone, she hung up. My wife was shaking with anger. This crazy girl has lost her mind. Drive over to pick her up tomorrow and have her get a medical list for a home first aid kit. Be back in 20 minutes, okay? Why buy it over there? That's another province. Less likely to draw attention. Plus I gritted my teeth. A kid pulling pranks like this needs to be taught a lesson. The family quickly finished dinner and crowded onto the living room floor to continue planning. My father-in-law sipped his cup and said deliberately, "Disposal isn't actually that simple. Splitting up is easy enough. As long as the degrading agent dosage is right, the residue is minimal enough to flush into the septic tank. That septic tank must be well concealed to avoid anyone noticing it's in use. As for this septic tank, don't even think about cleaning it out for the next few years. According to the design specifications, its planned sludge removal cycle is 12 months. Based on the standard of 30 scoops per person per day, it can support 200 people. But right now there are only 6 of us, meaning we won't need to empty it for 30 years. I did a quick mental calculation. What about those 2? My mother-in-law pointed at the cat and dog. They'll be fine. Dog waste can use biodegradable pads. I pushed away the dog, crowding close to me. Cats are a bit trickier. Cat waste can be biodegradable, but not all types of cat litter are biodegradable. We watched Director Ju stand up and waddle right into the litter box. Have to hand it to him. This nearly 20-pound chubby cat really has the air of a boss. Lazily casting a sideways glance at this crew, staring at him doing his business, you two-legged servants, curling his lip in disdain. He finished his business at his own pace and walked out, shook himself off, jumped on the couch, and stretched out comfortably. If we can find biodegradable cat litter, it's best to pack it up and take him with us. Mother-in-law's voice dropped low. I glanced over at Director Ju. He was lounging comfortably there, licking his fur, without even sparing me a glance. Turning back, I gritted my teeth. I'll reach out to some friends, see if we can track down the right kind of litter. If we find it, we'll bring him along. But if we really can't find any, we'll just have to stock up extra food and water at home, and leave him to fend for himself.
Right as I said that,
I felt a gaze fixed on me from the couch. I snapped to attention and whipped my head around. Director Ju was still casually licking his paw. The next major issue with sewage disposal is waste packaging disposal. This is a problem I searched through nearly 100 forum posts to answer, without finding a single solution, especially when many preppers stockpile goods. They also love hoarding plastic packaged snacks and treats, bottled water, and large jugs of drinking water, based on typical food and supply packaging ratios. With a 3-to-1 expansion ratio, preppers with a storage area over 150 cubic meters will find themselves within a year surrounded by over 3 cubic meters of plastic bags. And those plastic bags won't just stay neatly tucked away. Not to mention the leftover food inevitably inside the packaging. Scraps and juices will rot and spoil by that time. Even zombies might not want to bite you in that room. Zero waste is simply impossible to achieve completely, at least while stocking up. Packaging is an unavoidable reality. As our lockdown drags on and supplies dwindle, the waste will pile up. We can't just ignore this garbage, nor can we simply throw it outside. The former will ruin our shelter environment, while the latter won't just attract zombies. It might draw unwanted attention from others. The solution has 2 sides, tackling it at the source and managing the output. I waved the cola in my hand to show everyone. When it comes to stored packaging, we must strictly avoid rigid containers. Fixed volume packaging and materials like glass, metal, or ceramics. Won't you run out of soda then?
easy.
Just grab a few 2.5-liter CO2 cylinders, mix with cola syrup, and boom, cola. Plus, they double as fire extinguishers and weapons. Generating CO2 with baking soda and citric acid is a piece of cake. That's a walk in the park for a food major like me. As for waste processing, we need to bring in 2 small machines. I pulled up a picture. On the left is a compact, low-speed, vertical, single-shaft
Inline shredder.
Unit dimensions, 60 by 46 by 122 centimeters. Shredding size handles up to 40 centimeters. It tears up paper, plastics, thin-walled metals, and textiles, reducing shredded output down to 3 millimeters. I picked up a soybean to show the scale. On the right is a twin-screw flat-plate compactor, with a downward force of 28 tons. Using molds, it compresses the shredded plastic into 15 by 20 centimeter blocks. These blocks can be stacked like bricks. Both machines run on 4.8 kilowatt motors. I dragged the blueprint over, pointing to a corner on the fourth floor. This is where the builder planned for the dust collector and electrostatic precipitator. It has a few workspaces and a small room perfect for a spare parts warehouse. To store the compressed blocks, we'll install 5 or 6 15W UV ozone lamps. The whole room fills with ozone, which, combined with UV radiation, maximally cuts down on bacteria and microbial growth. I did the math. For the 6 of us, that is only about 0.2 rooms of solid waste a month. What about equipment maintenance? Fully mechanical structure.
Practically zéro circuit board.
And hardly any fragile parts. It is all rugged, heavy-duty metal. The screws are standard parts. And the key components are tough metal blocks built to last. Just make sure we stock up on spare motors. My father-in-law knows machinery like the back of his hand. 4 sets of snap rings, shims, and fasteners each. The motors on both units are interchangeable, and they even double as backups for the Yongqing pump. We will keep 2 extra motors on standby just in case. With all that metal on metal, is it loud? Not at all. I chose slow-speed equipment. It takes longer, but the noise is minimal. Operating sound is only around 70 to 80 decibels. The father-in-law is very satisfied. We will build a shed out of plywood, line it with soundproofing cotton, and we are good to go. Finally, waste disposal. This part is relatively the easiest. The building originally had fully finished walk-in freezers on the 3rd and 5th floors. The 4th floor freezer was missing one corner, which is now home to the bag filter and electrostatic precipitator equipment. Floors 3, 4, and 5 all have ducts connecting right here, and the ducts are lined with sound dampening panels. Ventilation and noise reduction are completely locked down. The only part of the entire dust removal system exposed to the outside is the electrostatic precipitation tunnel. The tunnel has dozens of layers of metal mesh designed to trap dust. Though we call it mesh, it is actually heavy-duty grid plating, 5mm thick metal sheets, punched with various gaps to let the air flow through. Breaching this barrier is insanely difficult. Not to mention the tunnel diameter is only 40 centimeters. How do you know this place so well? Mother-in-law asks the question on everyone's mind, because that is the very project I'm working on. After the client took over this stalled cold storage, they chose our company through a bidding process to handle the interior decoration of the production workshop and office areas. Once we make our move, how do you plan to explain things to the client? There are 13 people in total.
4 locals.
And 9 from out of town. Tonight, all of them are out for a dinner party. One of them will test positive. Tomorrow, everyone will be quarantined at home until the zombie outbreak hits. What about checking the security cameras? Even though the indoor and outdoor cameras are installed, they haven't been handed over to the client yet, so it's not a major issue. The compound cameras have already been handed over,
But
they won't be able to see what we're doing inside the building. And the best part? I smiled slightly. The client has already transferred 70% of the project funds according to schedule. Meanwhile, my payment cycle with suppliers hasn't arrived yet. Right now, I have 3.8 million in cash, and I can pull another batch of supplies from the suppliers. All right, now we can safely say, we can do whatever we want with this building.
how do you plan to use this building?
The building has a total of 5 floors. The first floor is the loading dock and water purification equipment room. Currently, a lot of construction debris is on the first floor. The first floor will basically stay as it is, both to fool the client and fake the look of an abandoned building. The second floor is the office area and showroom. Right now, all the raw materials are piled up there, and we don't plan to touch them either. Likewise, maintaining the illusion of an unfinished project. The stairs leading from the second to the third floor have already been blocked off with a stainless steel frame and wooden boards. We just need to weld a few reinforcement bars to the steel stair frame to make it one solid structure. And the zombies won't be able to climb up. Even though the cold storage on floors 3 and 5 is built, we won't use it either. For one, it fools intruders, because floors 3 and 5 have no windows. Even I was confused about which floor I was on the first time I went in. We create spatial illusions through structural remodeling. Hiding the 4th floor also serves as an acoustic barrier, blocking out all sound from down below. The fourth floor is the main living quarters, split into everyday living and survival zones. The entire fourth floor spans 830 square meters. Dust extraction gear takes up 170 square meters, 200 square meters for the survival zone, and 460 square meters for daily living. You mean there is another layout inside the fourth floor cold storage? Father-in-law is a legend. Hit the nail right on the head in just 3 words. The original owner planned a lab on the third floor, a setup requiring strict soundproofing. They used acoustic prefab modular housing. Acoustic prefab modular housing, just like it sounds. Portable housing with heavy-duty noise cancellation. The walls, floors, and ceilings are all factory-built, then assembled right on site. The modular units come with doors, windows, plumbing, and lighting pre-installed. Are there partitions inside the 200 square meter space? Do we need a crane to drop the roof on? No crane needed. The panel joints use interlocking structural parts. Once the floor and walls lock in, you just hoist the ceiling up using built-in pulleys. I show father-in-law the installation video. There are several partitioned rooms inside the structure. There is an airlock transition zone, 2 tiny changing rooms totaling 20 square meters, and 3 separate chambers, each at 20 square meters. These rooms flank either side, leaving a massive 120 square meter central hall, meaning we can build a room for Bebe right here. We just ditch the partition walls of the transition and changing rooms, leaving a clean 20 square meter space. We can take those salvaged partition walls and build a bathroom right off the main hall. As for the kitchen, I bet cooking won't involve traditional stir-frying, too much smoke and noise. Air fryers and steam ovens will be our go-to cooking gear. Man, my life is going to be so easy. Mother-in-law smirks. You still haven't solved the dishwashing problem. We've got dishwashers for that. Unless you're banning single-use containers. My wife always zeroes in on the real bottleneck with a joke. Who wants to wash dishes? The dishwasher has gotta work. I've already forgotten how to scrub a plate by hand. Plus, dishwashers use way less water than hand washing. It takes battery juice, but we can squeeze it in. A dishwasher is an absolute must. I immediately chime in that we've got power and water covered. We just need to add a small booster pump to keep the dishwasher intake pressure steady. Dad, I'm clueless about wiring. Could you figure out how to route the 220V output from the Blade battery packs right into the living quarters? 5 battery packs, paired up as 2 sets of 2, with the backup pack rotating in to replace an active one every week. In a rolling cycle. What kind of gear do we need to buy for that? My father-in-law grabs a pen and starts crunching numbers. A 60 amp power distribution box, with the output hooked up to 3-stage circuit breaker groups. After waiting a good long while, seeing my father-in-law is still deep in calculations, and the clock is ticking past 10 p.m., my wife and I decide to head home first. After all, tonight's main goal was just getting everyone on the same page. And the fact that we've already mapped out this much is way beyond expectations. Tomorrow my wife has to go pick up her sister, and I need to hit the factories to source supplies. So we definitely need to turn in early. My father-in-law lives on the 6th floor. On a sudden whim, I suggest taking the stairs. After all, there aren't going to be any working elevators in the future. So we head down the stairwell on foot. In modern high-rise apartments, stairwells are basically just used as fire escapes. Aside from the cleaning crew and maintenance staff, virtually nobody ever uses them. The stairwells are tucked away in the building corners, meaning almost zero natural light gets in, and the lights are a bit ancient, flickering on and off. Talk about instantly nailing that creepy survival atmosphere. I try cracking a joke with my wife, but she completely ignores me. I awkwardly rub my nose. Once you pass the 2nd floor going down, there aren't even any windows left. Just tiny ceiling lights flashing every now and then. We've never actually walked down these stairs before. Looking at it now, it feels dead ringer identical to the cold storage stairs. I can't help cracking another joke with my wife. I look down, and, oh, when did Bureau Chief come out? I reach out my hands, and Bureau Chief unusually leaps straight into my arms. Wait until we get to the 1st floor before moving. The elevator will take you up. Turning the corner is the very last flight of stairs. Right ahead is the 1st floor fire door. Who knows which inconsiderate jerk blocked off the first floor door with an iron gate, the kind completely sealed off without even leaving a door. I walk up and tap on the iron bars. The iron gate naturally rings out with a clanging sound. Turning around to vent a couple of complaints to my wife, a blood-curdling, piercing scream explodes in my ear. The sound is so agonizingly grating, the kind where vocal cords are stretched to their absolute limit, straining to wring out every last drop of sound. Suddenly, with a deafening crash, the security door collapses with a boom. One after another, bloody figures with peeling skin and exposed flesh contort their faces right against the bars, roaring as countless hands reach through the gaps in the gate, struggling and stretching outward. An overpowering stench of blood and rotting flesh hits us head-on, utterly nauseating. Luckily, I happen to take a step back, avoiding getting grabbed by the zombies. I scramble up a few steps, watching the iron gate firmly block the zombies. I let out a slight breath of relief and head back up the steps to grab my wife. Hurry back and warn Mom and Dad. I miss grabbing my wife's hand. She raises a finger pointing behind me. I turn around, and my blood runs instantly cold. Several mutant rats with barely any fur left are desperately climbing over the zombies to squeeze through the bars. The front ones are already dropping to the floor. We're done for. I never saw this thing during the beta test at all, so I didn't even consider rat-proofing. Though judging by the condition of this wave of rats, their physical agility doesn't exceed normal rodents. But it doesn't change the fact that they're using the zombies as a bridge to clear the barrier. The zombie rats have already hit the ground, lunging swiftly toward the stairs.
Despair washes over me.
I helplessly close my eyes. A crisp meow echoes through the air, and the zombie roars vanish in an instant. I snap my eyes open. The room was flooded with light. I was sitting on the couch, and Director Ju had fallen asleep curled up in my arms at some point. Father-in-law was sketching designs by the dining table. My wife was looking at me with concern. "What time is it, honey?" "A little past 8:30. You're up early." "Right, you had my dad calculate how many materials we needed, and then you just passed out. You only slept for a few minutes before waking up." I looked down at Director Ju. When he saw me wake up, he stretched lazily, stood up from my lap, and waddled away. For some strange reason, I seemed to detect a hint of arrogance in his swagger. Father-in-law had already finished putting together the material list. I took a picture and sent it to our regular electrical supplier, leaving a message to double the order, and that I'd pick it up first thing tomorrow morning. Then I turned to discuss it with him. "Dad, I've been thinking about this. Just putting up bars for the partitions on the second and third floors probably won't cut it. If we get critters like rats or cockroaches, there's no way simple bars would stop them if they turn zombie. What do you think?" My wife chimed in before he could answer. "Why don't we use the bulletproof glass from our bank and seal off the stairwell like a solid wall?" "That's not realistic. Standard glass takes about 5 days to go through the tempering process. And that's just for 10mm ordinary tempered glass." I gave my wife a quick lesson on glass mechanics. If it's the 30mm multi-layer composite glass you guys use at the bank counters, the production cycle takes 15 to 20 days. Not to mention whether we even have the proper permits to buy it in the first place. Plus, installing tempered glass requires building a whole framework. The size of the glass is inversely proportional to the frame density. The smaller the glass panels, the denser the frame needs to be, and the more connection points the frame has with the floor, walls, and ceiling, which means the overall weight skyrockets. If the installation isn't rock solid, a glass partition could easily collapse under its own weight. That's why a lot of articles say, days before the outbreak, ordering properly sized glass, and replacing the old one is impossible. Tempering furnaces cannot heat up or cool down in time. If saboteurs come to cause trouble, they can easily dismantle the glass frames. The method is simple. Bash it down with heavy sledges. Fair prices for all. So to block the path upstairs, the only way is concrete.
Pour un solide gravity barrier.
The previous owner ordered cement, mortar base, and self-leveling flooring for the second floor, so sand, gravel, and cement are already right here. Letting these building materials go to waste is foolish. Since the compound's first zombie appeared on the 28th, exactly by noon on the second day after the outbreak, we have plenty of time. On the night of the 27th, Outbreak Day. We will fill the stairwell completely with concrete. Even the utility and electrical shafts will be sealed with staggered layers. Seal the water and power shafts for floors 1 through 3. For floors we don't use, seal floors 3, 4, and 5. The elevator is also on the 4th floor. Install a circuit breaker on the elevator's wiring to stop anyone else from using it. Completely seal off access from other floors. To the 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors, remember to smash the elevator control panel or buy a spare part from the manufacturer. Dad, I don't get it, kiddo. When people open the elevator and see 5 buttons, who would believe there are only 4 floors? That old man is truly sly. I checked, this is a domestic elevator brand. I called the local service provider and told them afterward that there is 1 floor. We don't want people to reach by pressing the button. The guy was very understanding. Running a bathhouse or club, huh? I get it, that's easy. We have a ready-made solution. You can use a call bell to replace that floor. And you even have to long press the call bell or enter a password using the floor keys to reach that specific floor. But wait, isn't that out of code? You have to take it back and install it yourself. Isn't this even better? It's best if you don't come. I quickly locked in 2 panels. We can pick them up tomorrow noon. For spatial layout, the last part is the inventory zone. Unlike others using cardboard boxes on the floor, my method of choice is warehouse pallets. The biggest perk of pallet storage is easy handling. Forklifts can haul away entire loads in one go. A 1.5 by 1.2 meter plastic pallet holds up to 1 ton static load, stacking 1.6 meters high, which equals 2.83 cubic meters. In the 460 square meter storage zone, since aisle clearance isn't needed, it can be compressed to 1 meter. Dual row grouping with reserved loading gaps. Fits 180 pallets, taking out 1/4 of the storage zone. The remaining space uses 2nd floor panels to build hydroponic boxes so we can grow and eat our own veggies. Along the outer edge of the living area, we can build continuous shelving, totaling 60 meters of shelving, 4 tiers high at 1.6 meters. Easy to grab items and great for storage. Are the shelves and pallets in stock? Yes, they are. About 2 kilometers from the cold storage is the manufacturer. Qian has ordered from them before. I checked this afternoon, and stock is plentiful. Let's get the order placed right away. Order this afternoon, snagging almost all their stock. We got a discount. Plus 50% down and 30-day payment terms. How do we grow veggies without sunlight in the warehouse? Full spectrum LED grow lights. 100 square meters takes about 8 kilowatts. While it might lack targeted dimming for prime growth, it will at least produce edible crops. Reflecting on everything on my plate, it's mostly down to execution now. Everything planable is fully planned. After talking it over with my wife, we got ready to head home. Before leaving, my wife was still reminding his mom to pack up clothes and things. My gaze stayed fixed on Jiswa. He couldn't care less. Lazily tucking his paws in and lying down, I watched as he reminded the mother-in-law, "Mom, make sure you pack up all of Jiswa's stuff and move it over there later." Jiswa's tail was obviously wagging happily. The very first thing he did upon opening his eyes was check Weibo. Remember to check out the perks. Around 6:30 a.m. on June 21st, a U.S. military F-35 fighter jet crashed in Japan, and right after the pilot ejected and parachuted down, it slammed straight into the containment dome of a Japanese nuclear reactor, causing major casualties while simultaneously releasing a massive wave of radiation. Honestly, it makes me wonder if that is how the zombies started.
6:32 a.m.
Weibo's top trending search instantly shifted to U.S. jet crashes into Japanese nuclear power plant. I sighed, turned off the screen. What is coming will come. Life still depends on yourself. I am Yongguang. I studied food science, but somehow ended up stumbling into interior decoration. Still, I am going to use my food science background and connections to lock down the family's meals. I woke my wife up. The 2 sisters had already talked on the phone yesterday, and the suggestion to take a family trip together was met with an immediate green light. Even the kitchen orders had already been set up during the night shift, and the money was already sent straight to my wife's phone. My mom was up too. The 3 of us grabbed a quick breakfast. and divided up the tasks. Naturally, I stayed behind to source supplies locally, while my wife drove to pick up her sister, though she had to swing by with the electronic receipt to pick up medicine first. The old lady can just wander around and enjoy herself for now. As for why I kept my mom out of the preparations, I had my reasons. First, the old lady is over 70, a good decade older than my parents-in-law, so she couldn't really handle heavy lifting anyway. Second, she is normally out traveling the world and has tons of friends. If she suddenly got busy, it would definitely catch her friends' attention and risk a leak of information. Third, she served the people for 50 years, and her loyalty to the nation is rock solid. Once she found out the truth, she would almost certainly report it up the chain of command. Whether that would actually work out is another story, but it will definitely mess with our prep and lockdown. Look at your dad's colleague's ride. That 9th-gen wagon is way bigger than our BYD Tang MPV. Comfy to drive and loads of cargo space. I checked out my colleague's hybrid SUV. It gets 320 kilometers on a full tank. You can keep running over to your sister's cheap local gas station. Fill the tank, plus 4 40-liter jerry cans. Stash them right under your gear, and haul it all back while you can. Won't get another shot later. After seeing them off, I got down to my own checklist. First, I went to pick up the ordered electrical supplies and the custom elevator control panel. For the elevator panel, I picked a multi-factor setup, password, biometrics, and a hardware key. The elevator guy was super curious, seeing me pick the most complex security available, quietly asking where my place was and why I was prepping so hard. I looked at him, smiled, and said it's a brotherhood, where we fix bayonets. Asked if he wanted to drop by tonight to check it out. Scared him so bad his face turned pale. Next, I headed to Joe's grain company to order rice, flour, and various mixed grains. Knowing grains only store for about 3 years, I didn't go overboard. Based on 15 gene per person a month, with a 9-to-1 ratio of main grains to mixed, I bought a 3-year supply. My family doesn't use much cooking oil. We're all watching our weight. I bought 12 5-liter barrels of soybean oil, figuring 3 months per barrel. To keep meals diverse, I cut back on soybean oil and added butter instead. It's not just for cooking. We can use it for Western food and desserts. We don't eat much flour at home, so 10 5-kilogram bags were plenty. Grabbed another 5 bags of low-gluten flour to spice up meals. I requested palletizing and shrink wrapping for delivery. Playing it smart, I had them drop it off at my private warehouse tomorrow. Called to rush the hardware yard, telling them to deliver the shelving by this afternoon. We don't need that many pallets. Cut the order down to 30, because just now at Lianyu Company, they provided pallets for free, without even taking a deposit. We can just swap them out on a rolling basis. After dropping off the stuff from the car with my father-in-law and bringing him to the job site, he spent the afternoon at the site assembling the electrical panels and wiring. I took the high-speed rail to the provincial capital by myself. I had 2 goals for coming to the capital. First, to borrow a provincial licensed 40-foot refrigerated box truck from a friend to transfer goods from the warehouse to the cold storage. This way we can explain the cargo tracking by claiming it's being shipped to the capital, while also transporting supplies to the cold storage without anyone else seeing them. The second task was visiting several food companies I'd found. Some make freeze-dried vegetables and soup packets. Others make prepared meals and retort pouches. Retort pouches are canned foods packaged in aluminum plastic bags. They had clearance stock items like taro balls, pearl mochi, dried tofu, ice jelly powder, milk tea powder, and so on. There were also suppliers of frozen meat products. If things go smoothly, this single container holding up to 78 cubic meters of frozen goods will be enough for our whole family to eat for 3 years. The most crucial part is that the truck's refrigeration unit is portable and plug-in. Take it down to the storage area, put up a shed, and boom, instant cold storage. This storage within a storage setup is the ultimate refrigerator replacement. Plus, we've got insulation materials coming out of our ears. By evening, hauling a truck packed full of goods, I returned to my company's warehouse. After parking the truck, I found my father-in-law had already arrived ahead of time. The 2 of us hooked up the backup vehicle engine. My father-in-law pointed to the side and said, "The grain and oil arrived, and the shelves are here too." When people asked what it was for as they came in, I told them we took on a township supermarket project, and shipments are arriving in batches. As for the store over there, it's all good. All the materials for your soundproof prefab room have already been forklifted into the elevator and moved up to the 4th floor. Tried it out, and it's seriously slick. Just drive in the frame screws, prop up the panel with a forklift, line up the holes, and bolt it down. Must be tough trying to align those holes all by yourself. Bebe came back this afternoon and watched my back. Back already?
Didn't expect that.
They dropped me off and headed right home, closing up the warehouse. The two of us grabbed a ride to the high-speed rail station to pick up my BYD. On the way, father-in-law asks me, "All your plans are about hiding out. If the day comes when we can't hide anymore, how do you plan to run for your life?" I watch the traffic lights flashing. I've thought about it. Tomorrow, I'll send your Denza D9 and my BYD Tang to the dealership for a full service. Both of these are DMP models. Fully fueled and charged, they can crush over 1,200 kilometers. I'll top off the Tang's off-road auxiliary fuel tank too. Today I had Bebe haul back an extra 160 liters of gas, giving us a cruising range of over 2,500 kilometers. The BYD DMP Super Hybrid System features multiple drive modes, boasting insane power and high speed, top-tier stability, and stellar fuel economy. My Tang DMP Pure electric range exceeds 240 kilometers, and father-in-law's Denza D9 DMP Pure electric range hits a staggering 260 kilometers. Perfect for silently slipping through zombie-infested zones. But I'm swapping both rides over to heavy-duty off-road run-flat tires. After the 27th, we'll seal up the stairwell solid and start welding protective grills onto both vehicles. We'll park the cars deep in the corners of the first floor loading dock. We can slap up a fake drywall partition on the outside. When shit hits the fan, we just smash straight through the drywall and roll. How do we jump in the cars when it's time to run for our lives? There could be zombies or hostiles swarming outside. When the cold storage was built, they put in escape chutes for safety. Basically just a steel pole you slide down. To make it look nice, the owner had me box the pole in. I just need to stash enough impact-absorbing gear at the bottom. Even if we haven't trained, we can still pull it off.
Can't think like that.
Once we move in, everyone needs to practice. After picking up the truck, we swung by the agricultural market. DJI's agricultural drones have massive power and long flight times, but they're expensive. I wasn't planning on buying one. I rented one on credit and arranged to meet up with Finchot. After talking it over, on the morning of the 27th, I'll pick up the drone and Finchot will rendezvous with me that afternoon. I hope he makes it. I don't mind taking him along to survive this mess. Checking the time, it's 8 o'clock. The two of us decided to skip going home, grabbed a quick bite on the street, and headed back to the cold storage. We turned on all 8 sets of explosion-proof lights, 64 in total, on the ceiling. Then closed the door and listened from outside. The sound wasn't loud, but you couldn't say it was completely silent either. We tested it repeatedly for half an hour and confirmed that if we only ran one set, the sound became practically inaudible. In that case, we'll add switches. Rewire it from 8 lights per set down to 2 lights per set. Let's get to work. Taking apart a switch cluster, I found the light controls weren't wired in series, but used cheap jumper bars to wire the neutral lines in parallel. That makes things way easier. Unhook the neutral lines and leave just 2 hooked up to the switch. Sure enough, you couldn't hear a sound anymore. You couldn't even hear it standing outside the door. It took us half an hour to convert all the light groups down to 2 per set, and got all the switches fully installed. We even left some extra wire to set up a secondary linked switch in the living quarters later, if the bedroom had internet connection, and we didn't have to deal with the server issues. I would have loved to install smart switches. Checked out the prefabricated room my father-in-law built. Everything looked solid. The two of us hopped on our forklifts and got right back to work. By 11:30, the prefab room was fully assembled. Tomer Rowe will seal the seams with structural adhesive and silicone, and save the interior finishing for after the 27th. The two of us head back up to the 3rd floor to inspect the stairwell ceiling progress. 1.5 meters wide, 2.4 meters high, with a triangular space 4.2 meters deep, totaling roughly 7.56 cubic meters. Doing the whole thing in solid concrete would weigh about 17 tons, but the stair load capacity is only around 3.3 tons. Completely sealing it off with solid cement is a no-go. The two of us squat there racking our brains for ages. And the final conclusion is we have to tear out the stairs. I think about it for a second.
Dad.
Whether we cut these stairs or break them apart, it's just way too much trouble. The noise and ruckus would be massive. We've got to come up with another way. If you aren't cutting or smashing reinforced concrete, your only other option is blowing it up. Mining explosives are strictly regulated nowadays and hard to get, right? Ammonium nitrate actually isn't that hard. What I mean is, we can mix our own. Ammonium nitrate is a restricted, highly explosive, hazardous material. Aren't you a liberal arts major? And, if I remember right, your chemistry grade sucked. This isn't stuff they teach you in school. We lock in the plan. On the night of the 27th, we'll seal the fire doors with cement and plant explosive charges right into the staircase. Then blow up the stairs in the wee hours of the 28th. Heading back to the city, the two of us first go enjoy a nice relaxing bath. After all, in a few days we probably won't get another chance to soak, steam, and scrub down. Feeling totally refreshed, the two of us sit down to grab some skewers and start figuring out which home appliances we can salvage. The cold storage, dishwasher, steam oven, air fryer, water purifier, electric kettle, rice cooker, water heater, electric blanket, oil-filled radiator, space heater, and fridge and TV are absolute musts. But some gear can't just be moved over as is. For instance, the TV needs its speaker wires disconnected, and everyone has to wear bone conduction headphones while watching it, to avoid making too much noise. My father-in-law and I disagree on the electric hot pot and microwave. He thinks the hot pot draws too much power, and we won't have many chances to eat hot pot anyway. So a microwave is better for heating food fast and saves more energy. I argue that microwaves have high surge power draw, make a ton of noise, and aren't safe. When it came to air conditioning, we were really torn. For comfort, AC is obviously the best choice. But the power consumption and noise of an AC unit had us completely stressing out. The foot spa tub and the mahjong table were decisively scrapped. But we're packing wooden buckets and hand-carved mahjong tiles instead. Of course, the mahjong tiles will be padded with sponge and clear silicone sheets. Though sliding the tiles around quietly will be impossible now. Massage guns and various massagers. Everyone gets to bring two kinds. Sound systems are completely out of the question. Not just audio gear. Even fragile items are strictly banned. Our tableware at home will go completely metallic from now on. Robot vacuums and smart toilets are tossed out together. After all, both of them have lost their use cases. The air inside the cold storage is clean and dry, practically dust-free. Plus, we won't be using a traditional toilet either, but rather a portable RV toilet. With everything sorted out, I calculated the total power draw. As long as we aren't running everything at full blast, it shouldn't be a problem. After all, alongside the online systems, we've got 2 sets of blade battery packs and 10 individual blade battery modules to handle peak power loads. By the time I dropped my father-in-law off and headed back home, it was already 2 a.m. Tallying up our progress, everything is right on track, or even slightly ahead of schedule. We still need to move faster, to leave room for unexpected changes. I remember someone once predicting that clean air in the future would be sold just like purified water, because clean air is an ultimate luxury. Right now, I think he was spot on. The scorching, dry air feels like it's sucking every drop of moisture out of my body. Yet the stench of rot filling the air makes it hard to suppress. The rolling nausea churning in my gut. In the end, I couldn't hold it back and threw up right over the edge of the rooftop platform. My vomit rained right down onto a zombie's head. The zombie couldn't care less about my disrespect. Instead, the scent of human flavor in the vomit was the only thing on its mind. I looked closely down below. It seems that once rats turn into zombies, their mobility takes a massive hit too. They don't have the ability to climb the glass curtain wall supports along the wall and keep climbing up. What's quite unexpected is that insects don't seem to be affected by the zombie virus. At least flies and mosquitoes seem to fly normally. flies and mosquitoes. With mosquitoes around, I felt a bite on the back of my hand. I carelessly slapped the mosquito dead and kept observing. The back of my hand felt a bit itchy. I scratched it and it felt wet. I looked down, and the skin on the back of my hand had been torn open. The exposed flesh was pitch black. Right before my eyes, the skin turned black and spread up my arm. My arm was growing numb and losing its agility. I was terrified beyond belief. Yet I saw my wife walking up to the rooftop. Meanwhile, colleagues followed the mosquitoes back down the stairwell. Damn it. What are you coming up for? I yelled. Don't come over. With mosquitoes buzzing, I tried to lock the rooftop door. But my body still refused to obey. Seeing them about to meet at the doorway, I cried out with all my might. As the world spun around me, I saw my bedroom ceiling once again. I am sunshine. It is already June 22nd. I realize I picked the wrong shelter. Is it still too late to change locations? Sitting on the toilet, I began to carefully recall the details of the dream. First, the scene in the dream was undoubtedly the cold storage. There was only that single zombie downstairs, which means the cold storage neither attracted survivors, nor had any bait to draw in zombies. Second, zombie rats are not a first-time sight. I didn't analyze them closely last time, but thinking back now, both the jumping power and running speed of zombie rats dropped significantly, showing that the virus severely damages motor functions in organisms. But mosquitoes can still fly normally, meaning the virus is not infectious to insects. However, blood-sucking mosquitoes will undoubtedly spread the virus. Fourth, pest control in the cold storage is superior to everything else.
So,
comprehensive pest and mosquito control must be a top priority. I picked up the phone and called a senior from college to consult on architectural pest control and the key design points for bug and mosquito proofing. He immediately sent me a pin and invited me to tour his factory. I checked the time, should be plenty, and it's not too far from my place. Seeing it in person can only help. I picked up my wife by her parents' place to check it out together. By the time we reached the factory, there were 3 of us in the car. My sister-in-law had stubbornly tagged along. My senior's factory was a chocolate plant, making pure chocolate. Through every step of fermentation, roasting, grinding, mixing, and packaging, he gave us a thorough tour of the facility, even though he was baffled as to why I was so obsessed with the workshop and warehouses, temperature, pest, and mosquito control designs. He still gave a detailed breakdown of how to set up barriers at all the critical points, including multiple optical pest traps, active and passive trapping devices, and chemical barrier layouts. We spent 2 hours taking tons of photos, and I had him help draft a similar layout for our kind of space. I also got all the supplier info. After loading up 2 massive boxes of chocolate gifted by my senior, on our drive back from the factory, my wife went through the supplier notes and called them one by one to order the entire equipment setup. Things like rat guards, insect screens, and chemical troughs we have to DIY. We stopped by the 4S shop to give the car a full service, inspecting the battery and motor thoroughly. Then I drove to a friend's shop to swap on run-flat tires, put privacy tint on all the windows, and had a matte black wrap applied specifically. By the time we finished messing with all that, it was already noon. The 3 of us grabbed some Japanese food. After all, fresh seafood won't be an option anymore. On the way to the cold storage, I thought about it and called a business partner to custom-make 2-wheeled stainless steel cages, sized to match the BYD Tang and Denza D9. They can cover the vehicles entirely while keeping a 30-centimeter clearance from the body. The cage design is modeled after a tank's slat armor on the turret, welded using 5x5 centimeter, 3mm thick stainless steel tubing. Once the cage is delivered, we will mount some stainless steel panels, shaped like louver blinds on top. Finally, weld the cage to the vehicle's primary frame and roof rack. As long as the cage's own wheels touch the ground, the vehicle's load capacity won't be overloaded. Range will drop, but defense will skyrocket, making it way easier to smash through plaster walls or zombie hordes. Back at the cold storage, we stashed the recently bought chocolate and anti-heat/anti-pest gear in their proper places. My father-in-law and I hashed out the security issue of the landing platform after blowing up the stairs. Even without the stairs, What if something figures out a way to jump up here? After brainstorming, we decided that after blowing the stairs, we will use a forklift to shove a concrete precast slab over the platform. When we have time, we can even use cement to seal the gaps between the slab and the walls, fusing them into one solid piece. In the afternoon, I took the Tincture D9 to the 4S shop for maintenance and a window tint replacement. On the way back, I brought along some extra tint film, since by law, windshields and front side windows aren't allowed to have privacy tint. I just dumped it on my wife and sister-in-law and told them whatever result they get is what they get. Tonight's job is to secure both stairwells, while I work alone on the 5th floor preparing the explosives for the stairs. By morning, I wrapped up and carefully stashed the charges away, leaving only the detonator to hook up later. Stretching as I stepped into the elevator, I noticed my father-in-law had already swapped out the elevator control panel. Now, without the password, nobody is getting to the 4th floor. At noon, the machine shop called to say my cage was ready. So, I quickly dropped off the morning's purchases at the cold storage and switched to a truck to haul the cage.
Seeing
Razor wire and seamless steel pipes lying around the factory. I grabbed some of those too. Then ran over to the home improvement market to pick up 5,000 powder-actuated fastening pins. Normally, these are used for hanging ceiling anchors. With a few modifications, it'll be back at the cold storage. My father-in-law and the others had returned too. They mostly bought bedding, towels, bath towels, toilet paper, feminine hygiene products, toiletries, and everyday chemical goods. The MPV was packed to the absolute brim. The ladies sorted and organized the inventory into categories, while my father-in-law and I grabbed the heavy-duty welding torch and started attaching panels to the iron cages. Working until 9 p.m., the cages were basically finished. The outer walls of the cages were lined with stainless steel strips, spaced 5 centimeters apart, providing defense while maintaining visibility. The outer perimeter was wrapped in razor-sharp concertina wire, with the entry hatch located on top, positioned directly beneath the skylight. Once someone goes inside and pulls down the cover, 4 gravity-fed, 2-centimeter thick stainless steel bolts drop down to lock the cover tight, making it completely impossible to open from the outside. The cage body itself has 12 spring-mounted caster wheels, which both improve mobility and distribute the weight of the cage. Out of my own dark sense of humor, I spray-painted both cages matte black. Now, we just wait to assemble them on the 27th. Heading back to my father-in-law's place for dinner, my sister-in-law handed me a list. Brother-in-law, our medical supplies and equipment storage still aren't enough, and the way we're storing them has issues too. My sister-in-law explained to me, when you had my sister pick me up, we only bought common over-the-counter meds. But things like anti-inflammatories, stomach meds, iodine, medical disinfectant, saline solution, gauze, medical tape, absorbent cotton, cotton swabs, and medical dressings are way short. Sweat was pouring down my face. Her list also included 2 refrigerators, a pressure cooker, and a distilled water generator. Using a pressure cooker for sterilization and making distilled water, I get. But could you explain why we need 2 refrigerators? We just hauled back an entire cold storage unit. Different medicines need different storage temperatures. We must avoid temperature swings caused by opening the fridge daily. So, it's best to have 2 fridges. My sister-in-law patiently explains.
Plus,
we need to stock up on common vaccines and authentics, like the anti-rabies vaccine,
tetanus shots, and the like. Fine, you win.
Since that's the case, let's just go all out. Get a massive biomedical freezer. A corpse freezer won't be necessary. We have 2 at home. Just repurpose one. 10 kilograms of absorbent cotton, 1 kilogram of absorbent gauze, 20 sets of disposable gas masks. We'll carry these around from now on. 12 sets of powered air purifying respirators with fans and filters. Keep these in the car, plus 4 sets of level 3 hazmat suits. Bring a bucket of 5 kilograms penicillin ingredients and 1 kilogram bottles of vitamins from A to E, fully stocked. That was when I found out 1 kilogram of vitamin C only costs $40. Dawn breaks. Today is June 27th. After 6 days of hard work, our preparations can finally be declared in the final stage. Over the past 5 days, we've pulled off a series of complex and grueling tasks, successfully building a hardcore shelter. Let me break it down for you quickly. Split into 4 core areas: clothing, food, shelter, and transit. First, clothing. Besides moving all our clothes into the shelter, we've also stocked a full year's worth of replacement underwear for everyone. To handle potential extreme weather, we prepped multiple sets of Arctic-grade cold weather gear, high-level protective suits for both winter and summer, lightweight anti-mosquito gear, and bug-proof tactical suits. Even the pets got custom tactical vests to act as their own armor.
Second, food.
We didn't just store 78 cubic meters of frozen goods, including instant meal packs, pre-portioned chicken, duck, beef, lamb, pork, and fish, plus 110 cubic meters of ambient supplies, including 50 bags of rice, 30 bags of grains, 15 bags of flour, 10 drums of soybean oil, 50 kilos of butter, 15 kilos of assorted seasonings, and plenty of dried noodles and pasta. We also set up a 150 square meter hydroponic growing zone, plus a coop full of chickens. Of course, pet food is fully stocked too, with 1,500 pounds of biodegradable cat litter. Before we reveal where, let's talk vehicles. We turned our BYD Tang and Denza D9 into heavy armored trucks. This upgrade came with an unexpected bonus. Right between the body and the external cage, we gained an extra storage compartment. We can stash another 120 liters of fuel right here. My father-in-law used seamless pipes and one-way valves to connect the gas tank to the fuel drums, meaning we can pump gas into the main tank without ever stepping outside. This pushes the driving range of both vehicles over 3,000 kilometers. Because starting tomorrow, these 2 vehicles are our ultimate bug-out plan. If the shelter ever becomes uninhabitable, they act as dual backups for each other. So we packed them to the brim. Each rig gets 6 sets of hazmat suits and powered respirators, a 60-liter UV-sterilized water jug, 2 medical kits, 3 blankets, 2 full sets of spare gear per person, and 60 emergency ration packs. The roof racks carry even more supplies, locked down inside the cages. The cages also hold another 120 liters of fuel and heavy-duty entrenching tools. The vehicles are parked on the ground floor facing the cargo doors, hidden behind a fake wall built with light steel framing and drywall. Finally, the project that took the most time and grueling labor. The living quarters in the cold storage, floors 1 and 2, are still a messy construction zone, but anything metal that could pose a threat to us has been moved up to the 4th floor. To any outsider looking in, this place is completely abandoned, a wasteland devoid of usable resources. 1, 2, 3. Water, power, and scenic views from the 5th to 4th floor are cut off, packed tight with a massive amount of sticky, leak-stopping foam sealant. They will eventually form a sponge-like mass, blocking paths while absorbing shock and sound. Floors 3 and 5 are left empty to trick any desperate intruders into thinking there are no supplies inside and no one is home. The elevator connecting floors has already erased the 4th floor's existence. Once the stairs are blown apart, the 4th floor will be completely concealed here. The 4th floor cold storage is split into 4 zones. The living area is wrapped in thick soundproof walls. Even if noise inside hits 90 decibels, not a sound escapes outside. But this sparked a dilemma. With soundproofing this good, do we still need to keep our voices down? After a quick discussion, the family reached an agreement to maintain a low-noise lifestyle. Outside the living zone is storage, where 40 pallets divide the area like a chessboard, utilizing restaurant-style coding and inventory boards. Finding supplies is fast and effortless. The waste disposal zone is tucked in the corner, including the restroom and processing unit. This area handles wastewater, as well as solid waste. A custom soundproof workspace compresses solid waste into blocks, stacked in a garbage room reeking of high-intensity UV and high-concentration ozone. Finally, the farming zone, featuring hydroponic boxes and chicken coops. This is our only future source of fresh vegetables and meat. Appliances include our pre-planned fridges, washers, TVs, rice cookers, steam ovens, dishwashers, electric blankets, heaters, water purifiers, kettles, and air fryers, plus an electric pressure cooker. And of course, our 2 household mini drones.
And that warranty drone.
The building's original water and electricity systems have been completely cut. The elevator's original power supply system is destroyed. The key components of the large water purification equipment on the first floor, like the circuit boards, water pump tanks, and inlet/outlet valve bodies, have all been dismantled. We can fake the appearance that these traditional parts were stolen by thieves. Even the cables were cut and pulled out. The private well that the original building owners secretly dug has been properly hidden away. The power-generating glass, covering the surface of the stairs, looking just like glass curtain walls, has also been pocketed by us. So the building actually has plenty of water and electricity. Lying in bed, I review my preparations for tomorrow over and over again. No matter how thorough the prep, a trace of panic still creeps in. I take a deep breath, get up, and finish up the loose ends. Time to face this mode head-on. Wake up at 6 a.m. and cut power to all home appliances one by one. At 7 a.m., the whole family finishes breakfast. I already told my mom yesterday we're going on a trip today. Mom has packed her travel gear, and my father-in-law picked her up. They'll head to the shelter first. At 9 a.m., the moving crew arrives and starts loading my appliances and the rest of my mom's supplies downstairs. Yesterday, I already parked the truck as close to home as possible. The workers only need to load it onto the truck and secure it to the pallets as requested. Moving wraps up at 10:12. I lock the front door, settle up with the movers, and we part ways. At 11:48, driving the truck and intentionally taking the highway to circle half the city. I drive the truck to the cold storage facility. The security guards at the plant entrance, just like in my memory, fled to the city center. Who knows if, just like in my memory, they'll already be zombies when they return to the compound? At 12:20, unloading is swiftly completed with the help of a forklift. I go upstairs to find my mom and take the old lady. Wait, drive the truck to the warehouse 12 kilometers away. Mom, you don't need to say anything. Mom understands why you kept it under wraps. You can send out a warning to others right now. Right here. Doing it here will expose our shelter. I wave to my father-in-law to pull the car over. We're leaving right after the warning. This is the only vehicle we have left that can drive. Half an hour later, the old lady finished her call and silently got in the car. We raced back as fast as we could, because 5 minutes ago, Doeen already had videos of zombies biting people. We had to hurry back and seal the shelter. We made the 12-kilometer trip in under 10 minutes. My mother-in-law and wife were waiting anxiously by the first-floor elevator lobby. As we backed the car into its hidden parking spot, the iron cage was suspended in midair. Once we set up the fake wall, we'd park the forklift by the first-floor elevator, pull the battery, strip the circuit board, and send the elevator to the top floor. I'd slide down the pole back to the car and secure the cage to the vehicle. By the time my father-in-law pulled me back upstairs, it was past 3 p.m. Downtown had turned into a living hell. There were no living souls left on the streets, only wandering zombies. No time to rest. I grabbed the ammonium nitrate and detonators from the 5th floor, carefully placing them one by one into the drilled holes in the stairwell and landings, hooking up all 220 electric charges, and setting the blasts took until 5 p.m. My wife, who had been glued to the security monitors, confirmed there were no zombies nearby for now. I hit the detonator. Through the thick layers of soundproofing material, the explosion wasn't very loud. Sounded a bit like knocking on a door. But the sound of the collapsing stairs right after was deafening. A massive rumbling crash. Checking the top floor's stairwell camera, it pretty much achieved our goal, though there was quite a bit of dust. Another half hour passed. After checking everything over, the defenses were solid with 0 issues, and utilities and power were running normally. Now we can finally hole up here properly. By the time we finished, it was dinner time to celebrate our smooth relocation. And since fresh veggies won't last long, we decided to feast. We even cracked open our precious cola. The TV blared emergency broadcasts. The anchor forced calm while reading official notices. The cause and origin remain unknown. Stay indoors and await rescue. The state will abandon no one. Meanwhile, Our phones buzzed with neighborhood surveys, gathering family headcounts. We stayed completely silent. After all, we aren't even in the complex, nor do we need rations. If evacuation alerts come later,
We can respond then.
after dinner, Mom and my mother-in-law went to bed early. My father-in-law and I argued, but I took the first night watch. This morning, he severed the security feed from the guardhouse and routed the cameras to the living zone. The planned toilet was moved outside, turning the cubicle into our surveillance hub. All internal and external feeds converge right here. 8 screens form a makeshift monitoring wall. Aside from having no audio, everything is in plain sight. The streets on screen are totally empty. Solar streetlights kick on automatically. No people, no cars, no surprise there. This spot sits at the industrial zone's edge, backed by open farmland. With the heat this year, the wheat ripened early and was harvested clean. The nearest residential block is 3 kilometers away, a newly built resettlement housing project. Passing by there days ago, I heard the ribbon cutting was set for June 30th. So nobody lives there yet. This place is neither a main thoroughfare, nor close to highway exits or major routes. Few ever came here to begin with, and now it's a ghost town. I watch the cameras while doom-scrolling the news. Unsurprisingly, the viral zone centered around the neighboring provincial capital is expanding rapidly. The military has already mobilized swiftly, just like in the beta test, facing the rapidly spreading virus. The military doesn't have many good options either, at least for now. The military still can't bear to fire upon the people, right up until dawn. When my sister-in-law came to take her shift, just like in the beta test, not a single person or car appeared on the cameras. I went off to sleep. If my memory is right, a bit past 10 a.m., the old gatekeeper would show up. On his way here, he'd encounter a child zombie and get scratched slightly. He'd arrive at the compound just as I was finishing up work, mutating right in the middle of a chat with the workers, and be killed by the workers and me working together. By the time I rushed frantically back to the city center, the city, having endured 24 hours of zombie attacks, would be utterly devastated. I'd find my mom's body near the mahjong parlor, but wouldn't be able to get into my father-in-law's place. On my way home, I'd bravely dash into a Pinduoduo transit warehouse, grab some food, and race back home to reunite with my wife. In the end, I'd still be forced to venture outside due to a lack of food. I shook my head to throw these messy thoughts to the back of my mind, set my alarm for 10 a.m., and crashed into bed. 1 a.m. Yang Guang. I've already moved into the shelter, but can someone tell me just how bad this disaster has gotten?
Before 10.
Even hit, I was wide awake, lying in bed staring at my phone, until the alarm finally went off. Time to brush my teeth and wash my face. To save water, we've all switched to pet-safe edible toothpaste. It's super convenient, sure, but the taste is indescribable. Walking into the living room, my mother-in-law pulled out the century egg and lean pork congee and pickles she'd saved for me from the steam oven. As I sat down and wolfed it down noisily, I suddenly thought of yesterday's leftovers and kitchen waste. There wasn't much leftover food to begin with. Breakfast was practically done. My mother-in-law smiled. Food waste? Isn't that just vegetable leaves and scraps, along with what was left from breakfast? Go Bao ate it all up. The food waste disposer you bought isn't needed at all. Go Bao licked everything clean. I really didn't expect the dog to have this function. Looks like we can save a bit on dog food from now on. Then give him less dog food. And no more little cookies, save those for my snacks. That dumb dog didn't notice a thing, still waiting for me to toss him a bite or two. I finished my porridge and scraped the bowl clean with a silicone spatula, then put it in the 16-place setting dishwasher. Taking a look at yesterday's lavish feast, it couldn't even fill half of the dishwasher. Still totally manageable. I walked over to the monitor console just as the gate opened. The old man was back, riding an electric scooter. He rode with one hand and shook the other hand from time to time. He must have already been bitten. Watching the old man enter the main gate, he parked his scooter and walked toward the security booth, opened the door, went inside, and closed it. The air conditioner condenser spun to life, and a few minutes later, the security booth door suddenly swung open. The old man staggered out of the booth, took 2 steps, and face planted onto the ground. My sister-in-law was tense, clutching the corner of my shirt. Is he dead? I stepped a few inches to the side to rescue my shirt. Dead, but not completely dead. I pointed at the screen. Look. On the screen, the old man kicked his legs a few times and suddenly flipped over. With a backbend stunt hard for any normal person to pull off, he arched his back up from the ground, twisting as he gradually stood straight. Zooming in on the feed, you could see his skin had turned pale gray, while the paths where veins ran turned dark blue-black. My sister-in-law enthusiastically began observing zombie behavior. As for me, I went back to the living room, put on headphones, and watched a show with my wife. On the 3rd day of the outbreak, I checked the wastewater storage tank. It had already exceeded 10%, and 3 out of the 12 20-liter Blackwater tanks were already full. I briefed the whole family and decided to kick off our first waste disposal routine. First up, the toilet. I put on a mask and dragged the Blackwater tank over to prevent the drainage port from being breached. Aside from installing 3 U-bends in the pipes, 2 heavy-duty one-way check valves, and 1 mechanical slide gate, we built a 3-layer shield over the drainage outlet, using 5mm stainless steel plates. We used load-bearing cut rubber sheets as insulation layers in between. As I listened to the wastewater draining into the black tank, I closely inspected the solid breakdown and odor levels, because the first batch of 3 black tanks had degradants and deodorizers added at 2 times, 1.5 times, and 1.25 times the standard dosage respectively. Comparing the condition of all 3 tanks confirmed we should stick to 1.5 times for future batches. Next was the gray water tank. We have 2 water storage tanks, both with a 5-ton capacity, and both equipped with ultraviolet ozone disinfection systems. One acts as the freshwater tank to store the pumped well water. It's kept full daily, use a ton, pump a ton, maintaining a rolling cycle. The other serves as the sewage tank. The bottom 30% of the tank serves as a sludge sedimentation zone. We drilled access ports at the 10% and 50% marks of the tank for sewage drainage. The wastewater in the sewage tank isn't just for storage. It's used to flush the drainage pipes. We released 100 kilograms of gray water to wash away the waste, then flushed the pipes with another 10 kilograms of clean water. Once all of that was done, we shut the drainage valve tightly again. After washing our hands and disinfecting, we headed back to the living area. My sister-in-law pointed at the lone zombie outside and said, "They probably don't have vision, but they can sense light. They hate being out in the sun and will duck into the shadows. They're extremely sensitive to sound and can accurately track the direction of a noise. Their movement isn't very agile, but they're heavily affected by temperature. When it's hot, they're nimble. When it's cold, they slow down a lot. Can't really tell if their sense of smell is a factor yet." I nodded, just like I remembered. Today's internet is flooded with chaos. Government updates are twofold. On one hand, urging people to stay put, stay indoors, and wait for rescue. On the other, authorizing the military to shoot the infected on sight. According to official statements, the military will set up safe zones first, then gradually clear areas to expand them. Initial safe zones will be established in small towns and villages because of low population density and fewer infected, making it easier to build defense perimeters. Checking the community chat, there are quite a few survivors left, but most have 0 supplies. Some are already trying to trade food. I'm kicking myself a bit. Why didn't I think to turn our cameras outward, to keep an eye on the outside world?
Nothing we can do about it now.
Day 5 of the outbreak. Everything around the shelter is quiet as ever, dead silent and totally empty, save for that single wandering zombie. Funny thing is, zombies seem allergic to bending over. Before turning, the old guy locked the main gates, but the pedestrian door was left half open, just a head lower than his height. Yet he refuses to duck and slip through. Every time, he just crashes into it a few times and walks away. Negativity is spreading online. Some clowns are starting to stir up trouble again, claiming everything overseas is fine, preaching peace and quiet, and all that nonsense. Almost immediately, compatriots abroad posted photos and videos slapping them right in the face. Aside from repeating that people should stay inside, keep quiet, and wait for rescue. The authorities also dropped news of the first safe zone. While it drew praise and hope, complaints came flooding in just as fast. Cue the comment section turning into a total circus of chaos, a wild free-for-all. "Hurry, grab a ride," my wife called out through my headset. Our shift schedule is me and my father-in-law on night duty, and my wife and sister on day shift. Day shift runs from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. in 7-hour blocks, and night shift runs in 5-hour blocks. My wife is referring to the last shift of the day. I ducked into the monitoring room and saw a white SUV wobbling into view on the screen. The vehicle was struggling to move forward. It drove up to the intersection and stopped. The driver got out to check the tires. Looks like the front left tire went flat, then got back in and drove toward our factory area, clearly intending to pull into our grounds to change the tire in safety. I frantically checked the cameras to find that zombie and spotted it at the far end of the facility. Even though it was far away, there was a straight path right to the main gate. Our sliding gate uses license plate recognition to make inventory runs easier. The recognition feature is still on, but it only logs data now, meaning any plate at all could trigger it open. So the car drove right on in, though we couldn't hear a thing through the thick walls. Judging by the zombie's movements on the monitor, it definitely heard them. It started heading toward the gate. The driver pulled a right turn not far inside the entrance, watched the gate slowly close behind him, and stepped out to look around before heading to the guard booth. He took 2 steps, stopped, glanced inside the car, and walked right back to it. Looks like there were still other people inside, who put a stop to his scouting. The driver pulled a small bottle from the trunk, which looked like tire sealant, and squatted down by the front left wheel to work on it. My wife and I watched the screen with bated breath. The zombie had already covered more than half the distance, and right before our eyes, they were now in the same frame. The driver finally stood up, talking to whoever was inside the car, when he suddenly turned around and spotted the zombie just a mere 10 meters away. He scrambled head over heels into the car, fired up the engine, reversed onto the main road, hauled it over to the gate to wait for it to open, and bolted out of there in a flash. Seeing the gate shut behind the car, my wife and I let out. I let out a breath and realized my palms were soaked in sweat. While feeling lucky for him, I couldn't help complaining. "If you were going to run off, you could have at least taken the zombies with you. Why'd you leave them behind for us?" Day 10 of the outbreak. Unsurprisingly, both water and electricity were cut off, and amidst the rolling waves of calls for help, the internet barely lasted another 20 hours. Only the solar streetlights remained, upholding the final dignity of modern civilization. Cut off from the internet, we plunged into an information blackout, getting by solely on pre-downloaded TV shows and movies. The silence in our external communications also bled into the silence between us. To keep everyone from losing their minds, my sister-in-law bravely volunteered to lead daily workout sessions. We also instituted internal management rules to limit TV viewing time. Surprisingly, though, my father-in-law actually managed to build a microwave antenna. Even though the signal was terrible, at least we could pick up some TV broadcast signals. Channel 1 was endlessly looping emergency national announcements, and the provincial station was stuck on a frozen emergency screen. Our local city station had no signal at all, though the city stations in the neighboring province had some broadcasts. Makes sense, since the neighboring province has a heavier military presence and stronger crowd control. Plus, it's a powerhouse of an industrial province, meaning better industrial capacity and infrastructure. So their power supply is way more stable than ours. Meanwhile, our daily life hit its first major bottleneck. The bottleneck here wasn't about daily survival supplies or waste disposal issues. It was the fact that our fresh vegetables and fresh meat were finally completely gone. The 3 of us young folks were fine, but the 3 elders were having a hard time adjusting. Even though I prepped over 200 kilograms of freeze-dried vegetables across 14 different types, rehydrated veggies just don't have the texture of fresh ones. Frozen meat faced the exact same issue. The 3 seniors showed a clear drop in appetite. Day 40 of the outbreak. A news anchor appeared on the provincial station for the first time. Judging by the visuals, they were in some hastily cobbled-together broadcast room. The green screen effect wasn't very stable at all. The good news is the province has established its first safe zone. located in the southern mountains, which was originally a military training base. Troops happened to be stationed there training when the outbreak hit. Realizing a disaster had arrived, the military set up a safe zone. After scrambling through the panic and holding off the first few waves of zombie attacks, the military went on the offensive and rescued massive crowds of people. They even launched rescue operations up to 100 kilometers away in the provincial capital. The TV crew and others were brought back to the safe zone around this time. The television broadcast advised citizens to decide for themselves whether to head to the safe zone or wait for rescue at home, depending on their own supplies and local security. It also broadcast some important tips on defending against zombies. Our family discussed it. We have ample supplies, solid defenses, and reliable escape routes. There is no need to risk going to the safe zone. Staying put in the shelter is definitely the best bet. My wife suddenly brought up a question. Right now, not many people should be able to watch TV like we do. Who is this news actually for? My father-in-law slapped his forehead. Oh man, getting old. I completely forgot about radios. Radios should have been usable from the very beginning. We all stared at each other in blank dismay. None of us had thought to prepare one of those. My mom pulled out a Bluetooth player used for square dancing from her bag. My radio broke ages ago. I can only use Bluetooth. Let me take it apart and see what's broken. My father-in-law dug out a screwdriver and opened the casing. A capacitor is blown. This type of capacitor is very common. Just harvest one from a small appliance. He took apart a massager, found a matching capacitor, and replaced it. By the time it was fixed, it was already night. I operated the repaired radio and slowly started scanning for stations, national and provincial channels, and even test channels are all working. Naturally, the content is mostly the same, reporting where safe zones are located and advising everyone to head there based on their situation. Father-in-law's repair job worked surprisingly well. Not only can regular radio broadcasts be received, but we even picked up the TACAN beacon from the local military airfield. On a sudden whim, I scrolled through my phone and found a northern radio hobbyist I had crossed paths with before, trying to listen in. Suddenly, a zombie's roar burst out, scaring the living daylights out of me. The voice on the radio was heavy with panic. There are too many zombies. Like a tidal wave, you can't see the end of them. A horde coming from the north, a horde coming from the north. I remember he lived over 1,300 kilometers away, in the north. If people further north than him are falling, doesn't that mean it's coming from abroad? Sister-in-law leaned in. Zombies have low activity in cold temperatures and are migrating south. That means zombies possess primitive biological traits. Biological traits? Do zombies even have reproductive capabilities? My wife once again showed off her wild imagination. I thought about it for a moment, pulled my wife back into the bedroom, and dug out a certain video from my study materials. My wife's face turned completely green. Even I felt a bit sick to my stomach. Back in the living room, sister-in-law held up a piece of paper to show us. Based on the movement speed of that zombie downstairs, it walked 200 meters in 3 minutes. That's about 4 kilometers an hour. Slightly slower than a human walking pace. Because they bake in the sun during the day and fear direct sunlight, they can only travel a maximum of 8 hours a day. Covering 1,300 kilometers will take about 40 days. Factor in obstacles along the way, crossing rivers and ravines, and finding places to hide from the sun. No wonder I didn't see any zombies on the test server. The heavy rain from the past few days had washed the solar power glass completely clean. Our power generation has been ridiculously high these past few days, hitting over 80 kilowatt hours a day. Combined with the fact that there have been no accidental leaks for a whole month, we've also lifted the noise restrictions and gone back to normal. Thanks to the abundant electricity, our hydroponic vegetable and crop washing saw its first harvest. The elders' loss of appetite has been relieved. The biggest surprise came from the button quails. I originally bought a cage on a whim, a total of 15 moo? No, 16 birds in total. Just thinking of them as a supplement for fresh meat. Who would have thought they actually started laying eggs? But the immediate problem this brings is increased food consumption. We hadn't planned for chicken feed recently, nor did we prepare to grow staple crops. After 5 days of observation, We figured out that if we keep all 16 chickens and just eat their eggs, our staple grain supply will drop by about a month. If we hatch a new batch every 6 months to replace the laying hens, it'll shorten our supplies by 3 months. After a democratic vote, we ultimately decided to keep 9 out of the 15 hens, hatching a new batch every 9 months. Day 55 of the outbreak. In my past life, this was the day my father-in-law and mother-in-law lost contact. Our two homes used to face each other across a river. During the beta test, we could still flash our flashlights back and forth to signal we were safe, until there was no response left. But now, the whole family is reunited in the shelter. Even though we never see the sun, at least the whole family is safe and sound. So today we put together a feast to celebrate. We broke out the drinks and beverages we've been hoarding, and even had desserts and ice pops. After carefully assessing safety measures with my father-in-law and setting up fire prevention protocols, we teamed up to grill lamb skewers and lamb chops. While we were eating, the emergency broadcast alert flashed on the TV, showing a newsroom and an anchor making an urgent broadcast. Multiple hordes of zombies sweeping down from the north had breached small safe zones and residential settlements across several northern provinces, creating a massive wave of new infected. The zombie tide has grown even stronger. Right now, the zombie horde is pushing south at 3 to 5 kilometers an hour. We put down our bowls and chopsticks, watching the video of zombies using sheer numbers to pile up against the edge of the safe zone, stacking up higher and higher until they matched the wall height, and finally spilling over the wall into a brutal massacre. On the 70th day of the outbreak, after seeing how the horde attacks, my father-in-law and I double-checked our entire defense system, especially the platform where the stairs were blown out, to keep zombies from piling up to a height where they can stand on the platform. I used leftover cement to angle the platform into a steep slope, where zombies can't get a foothold. Another piece of good news today. The first batch of button quail eggs has hatched. This means our sustainable meat supply plan just took a huge step forward. Day 90 of the outbreak. According to TV reports, the vanguard of the southern zombie horde ground to a halt 10 days ago due to rising temperatures, while stragglers are still converging on the massive swarm. Now the horde is massed up north, on the northern bank of the Deh River, 400 kilometers away. Over the past few months, safe zones have popped up everywhere, with the closest one only 50 kilometers away. But in my view, even though those small safe zones keep frantically raising their walls, they probably won't hold out long against the horde. After 3 months of use, the gray water tanks have built up a fair amount of solid waste at the bottom. It just started raining today, so under the cover of the downpour, we completely drained the gray water tanks. The accumulated sludge was cleared out through the bottom drainage port. We even have surplus power now, so we grabbed every heating appliance we have to dry out the moisture, compress it into blocks, and toss them with the solid waste. The whole family suited up in protective gear and powered respirators. My wife watched the monitors and kept an eye on the pets, while the rest of us headed to the storage tanks. First, we emptied the black water tank, then used the upper drainage port of the gray water tank to give the black water tank a quick rinse, before soaking it with disinfectant 8 times over. Open the lower drain valve of the sewage tank and start draining. This is the most nerve-wracking moment. We keep the flow rate slow. It takes about an hour to drain all the water. I check in with my wife. The zombie is taking shelter from the rain at the main gate. Flushing the sediment at the bottom of the water tank is a hassle. On one hand, there's sediment and the height is too low to route it directly into the sewage pipe. On the other hand, we're worried excess solids will clog the pipes, so this drain valve is left open. Double-check that both doors separating the sewage zone, the living area, and the storage zone are tightly shut. My father-in-law and I push a handcart forward, carrying a 150-liter stainless steel water tank. My mother-in-law takes charge of the sewage valve. My mom's job is to use a small basin to catch any stray drips once filling is done. My sister-in-law handles the compressor, and the ozone generator is now shut off. Everything is ready. The valve opens. Pitch black. A thick sludge looking just like half-melted chocolate. Even with our self-contained respirators working hard, They still can't completely block out that vile stench. Fill up another cart. Shut the valve tight. The two of us put our backs into dragging the heavy handcart to the solid waste disposal room. Turn off the UV light. Open the door to confirm the ozone concentration is safe for work, and step into the room to compress the waste. The slot of the solid waste compressor is lined with multiple layers of fiber cloth. We also placed a large basin right beneath the machine to catch wastewater from the compression point. My father-in-law and I scoop out the thick sludge sediment spoonful by spoonful, pouring it into the compression hopper. Fill it about 80% full. Fold the fiber cloth layer by layer to cover it up, and start the motor to slowly lower the pressing plate into position. Power on and compress. Fearing we might rip the fiber cloth, the descending speed is slow, and the downward pressure is kept light. Normally, it takes 20 seconds to press a batch, but we take a full 2 minutes. It finally turned into a flat slab of mud, or rather a mud brick. If someone writes words on this, and it gets discovered hundreds of years later, would it count as historical material? My father-in-law's laughter came through his respirator, sounding a bit muffled. I chuckled too. What if they try to analyze the composition of the mud tablet and end up vomiting on the spot, then get charged with destroying cultural relics? Amidst laughter and cheers, mud slabs were stacked together one by one. Once they were all pressed, we brought over 2 electric space heaters and quickly used up our ample power
To bake them all dry.
Otherwise, there would still be a terrible stench and biological hazards. The temperature started to drop on the 150th day after the outbreak. The temperature drop wasn't a surprise. After such a long time, the state had already restored some societal functions within the safe zones. Services like weather forecasting were among the first public services to be restored. Down in the shelter, we couldn't really feel the temperature changes. After all, the insulation layer of the cold storage works both ways. Insulation that keeps the cold out keeps the heat in too. Warm, humid, and with plenty of artificial light, the planting area had hydroponic plants growing extremely lush, especially fast-growing ones like lettuce and Chinese chives. We had already harvested multiple batches. Just as we were happily farming and raising chickens, my sister-in-law suddenly screamed through her headset. Something's happened. Hurry over. Rushing back to the living room, the radio was emitting a panicked beeping sound. They're back again. More than last time. They're all foreigners. There are so many of them the roads are completely jammed. For the week that followed, we spent our time tuned into the Big Boss channel, listening to him describe the scale of the zombie horde, listening to his distress over being unable to go out for food, and listening to him calculate how much longer his family's food would last. On the television, the government announced it will destroy bridges via airstrikes to cut off the migrating routes of the zombie hordes and wipe them out en masse once they gather on the northern riverbanks over the next 50 days. Moving south from the country's northernmost tip, every few days, we'd hear about another bridge being blown up or another horde being wiped out. Day 220 of the outbreak. Temperatures dropped near freezing. As a countermeasure, we checked all plumbing lines and heating equipment. To prevent pipes from freezing and bursting, we set up continuous running water systems. As for our hydroponic crops, we harvested everything we possibly could and gathered the rest together with a circulation pump to keep the water flowing. The zombie hordes had now moved to central China. The dense network of rivers here chopped the hordes up into isolated pieces, shrinking their scale and restricting their range of movement. The low temperatures caused the zombies to move slowly. Combined, these conditions made this region the ultimate battleground for wiping out the zombies. Northern China was now snowed in, and the scattered leftover zombies that hadn't migrated south were no match for the military whatsoever. As a result, practically speaking, the North had essentially survived the apocalypse and kicked off reconstruction. Meanwhile, zombies in southern China continued migrating further south. Due to our inability to intercept them all, the brief window of opportunity as the zombies crossed the border was seized by our national leadership, who destroyed the bridges to prevent more domestic zombies from heading south and to cut off any path for the hordes to march back north. Of course, our borders aren't lined entirely with rivers. So some of the blown-up bridges stood in grim, endless darkness. Even the British government raised no objections. If there even was one left.
EAM yang guang.
I can proudly say that not a single piece of preparation I made for this apocalypse was ever wasted. Day 435 of the outbreak. Order in both the north and south has basically stabilized, and it's safe to say the zombies have been cleared out, and the zombies in the central region are being wiped out, block by block. Rescue isn't far away now. Today's news broadcast came in. In our hit area, no survivors have been found in the last 100 days, and no new distress signals have been received. Therefore, to eliminate the zombie hordes once and for all, the state has decided that in 10 days, bait will be dropped to lure the zombies surrounding the Bishit River and its basin right into Bishit, and cleanse the land swiftly using nuclear weapons. The nuclear weapons planned for this operation feature compactness, massive destructive power, and minimal radiation residue. They were independently developed by our scientists, with completely independent intellectual property rights. Our family looked at each other in dismay. A historical concentrated nuclear cleanup? Doesn't that mean we're going to get nuked? What the hell? Hiding too well means getting a nuke dropped on us. We definitely can't survive a nuclear blast, right? What are you thinking? Pack your stuff and get ready to run. Both vehicles are prepped and ready at all times. Even though they haven't been driven for a year, their specs show they're still in top shape. Father-in-law and I talked it over and decided we couldn't just leave like this. First, our shelter must remain sealed when we go, left intact in case rebuilding happens so we can scavenge things. Second, we need to eat well before hitting the road, to ensure we have enough physical strength and energy to handle whatever happens out there. Third, when we head to the safe zone now, even though they use a rationing system, the supplies we bring ourselves won't be requisitioned and will still belong to us personally. Fourth, although currency is still in circulation, cash is ultimately inconvenient to carry. We need some hard currency. Take all the unplanted crop seeds with us. Take all the button quails with us. Boil all the eggs and pack them. Load up a vehicle with rations. Bring a bit of every kind of bean to use as seeds. Divide the homemade explosives into 200-gram packs, 2 kilograms per vehicle for self-defense. Soft canned vegetables. And various hot sauces totaling 120 kilograms. Will go into the cages outside the vehicles. Everyone brings an extra 3 sets of clothes and 10 sets of underwear and socks. Lastly, battery banks and electronics. These serve as our ultimate defense and supplies for our future life. Before setting off, we first had to deal with the zombie in the compound. It was seriously disrupting our prep work. The method was simple. Put a chicken inside the elevator. To lure it in, close the doors, and cut the power. Smooth and easy. The fluttering chicken quickly attracted the zombie. Once it stepped into the elevator, we hit the close button from the 4th floor. As the elevator started going up, we cut the power instantly. Then we heard a miserable screech from the chicken. Checking the cameras, the zombie finished the chicken and started wandering around inside. To play it safe, we released 3 more chickens outside. After they roamed the compound for a full day and night, seeing them still hopping around lively, we finally suited up in our gear, took the other elevator down to the ground floor, and got to work dismantling the fake guns. Right after finishing the forced teardown, the government's operation to lure the zombies out of the city began. Through our security cameras, we spotted a fixed-wing military drone, circling low and slow over the city, dropping incendiaries from time to time, or blasting loud music to draw the zombies out of every corner, and herd them toward the northern district. We also launched our drone for the first time, crossing paths mid-air with the returning military drone from the base. The next day, after swapping out the military drone, they dropped a package at the spot where we crossed paths. We used our drone to retrieve it. After thorough disinfection and sterilization, we found a military walkie-talkie and a letter inside. The first part of the letter confirmed the evacuation time, route, and rendezvous method. The second part questioned our demands regarding thorough disinfection and quarantine. The third part detailed the safe zone's policies on personal property protection and job assignments based on individual skill sets. The final part was a manifest of the safe zone's most urgently needed supplies. After reading the letter, I got a new idea. Aside from securing our own personal supplies, we can completely share the rest of our resources with the government in exchange for special treatment. After all, in our family, there are only 3 able-bodied workers. The 3 elderly folks obviously hold no advantage in this survival life. After negotiating with the government, all our appliances, batteries, and vehicle supplies remain our own, while we split the rest of the supplies 50-50 with them. In exchange, we secured the condition that the 3 seniors receive normal rations without having to work. Additionally, the government will dispatch troops to rendezvous with us and help transport the supplies. After waiting for 2 days, on the 2nd day, after the zombies were lured away, we spotted the approaching convoy on the monitors, along with that military flag bearing glory and pride.